hi everyone. It's a pleasure that so many of you found their way here, despite outside playing the DJ and it's Friday afternoon and all are up for the party. So just to get everybody in the mode, imagine that you would have to set up a project about digital skills building for girls and women, but there are some challenges. Where you live, being online seems to appear at first sight the least of a problem, because where you live, local and nationwide conflicts might be going on for years. Where you live, you have no secured power. There are power outages all the time. Where you live, there are still many people who cannot even read. Girls and women being educated is probably still the exception than the rule. And where you live, being online is actually a luxury. So the question is, with all these challenges ahead, what can you do and how can you work to overcome that and still make projects like that work? And I hope that you are excited as me, that today we will have the pleasure to welcome 4 very inspiring guests from very different countries of the world with us, who will tell their stories as female entrepreneurs, how they manage to build up tremendously inspiring projects about digital skill building in fragile contexts. But before we start with that, let me quickly introduce you what's going to happen during the next hour. So first, we will have another input session from one of the hosts of the session, Dr. Katrin Bornemann, who works as the Digital Commissioner for the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development. After that, we will hear the project pitches of our 3 inspiring projects that we have in a pecha-kucha format, which means that they have 20 slides with 20 seconds each, and they will have a very quick run through each of the projects. And then we will go into a panel discussion. So we will not do a Q&A after each and every talk, but what we will have prepared for you is that you find little note post-its on your seats or somewhere in your row, and also pens, I guess. And so whenever you come up with a question during one of the talks, just feel free to note it down. And my colleagues, Marina and Johanna, raise your hands quickly, they will go around and you can, they will collect them, and then we will integrate them into the discussion so that we can hopefully answer most of the questions that you have. So who are the projects that we have here today? We are very happy that we have Yayi and Yine Yenki from Time to Shine ICT from South Sudan. We have Dr. Nayla Fahed who will present Tabshura in a Box, which is a Lebanese project that develops alternative educational resources through technology. And we have Iffat Gill, founder of Code to Change, who will tell the story how she provides women access to internet and digital technologies in Pakistan. And so now we will jump start into the input session. I would kindly ask again Dr. Katrin Bornemann to our stage to welcome you and give some introductory words.
Thank you very much, Laura. I was giving an introduction yesterday, and I was so nervous that they didn't give me a hand mic because I was shaking all the time. It got better day by day. I'd like to welcome you on behalf of the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. I'm very happy that so many of you came to the session. And I'd like to give a special thanks to DJ Motta outside for providing the soundtrack to our session today. Thank you. Why are we actually doing this? When you were walking around the Republika, you saw the decoration they had, right? They had the bubbles hanging around. And in the last session that we were giving, I was actually referring to this because I think that us here, when I look at you in the audience here, we're very much in that bubble, and we're very much just, thinking, I think, inside a bubble. So our job, or what we wish to do, what we want to challenge you, is to step outside the bubble and also have a look at the other perspectives, also have a look at the developing countries and what is digitalization actually doing there. So this morning, me and my husband, we were here very close by in a hotel, and the fire alarm got off at 7 a.m. and we went out last night. So we were asleep and the fire alarm took off. And you know what I did? The first thing that I did was I didn't, I don't know, grab a jumper or grab my suitcase. The first thing I grabbed was my mobile phone. And so we were all, uniting outside the hotel, and everybody had their mobile phone. So this little thing is actually something that we're really depending on. And that reminded me so much. I was on a business trip the other day, and we went to Manila, and we had a workshop there. And there was a lady, and she said, she was actually late, and she said she was apologizing. And I said, yeah, so what happened? And then she said, yeah, you know, I received a phone call from my auntie last night, and she is living in a place a bit far away, and she was calling me and telling me that her husband is actually beating her up, and that she's scared of her life, and that she had to go there to take her, to bring her to a secure place. And that really shows that us using the mobile phone, we're so busy on WhatsApp and Instagram, but mobile phones, digital devices can really save lives in other parts of the world, and also here, of course. And this is actually what the panel is about, to see how can we use tech to promote female issues, to promote females, to close the gender gap. And I think this is really it. I'd like to hand over to you, Laura. And yeah, good luck with the panel, and enjoy the discussion.
Thank you very much, Katrin. So the next block is dedicated to our project presentations. And once again, also for the people who just entered the room, if you have questions, note them down on the post-its that you find on your seat or in the row. Maybe someone has them. And if you have them, also just raise your hand when my colleagues come around and collect them, and we will integrate them in our panel discussion after the talks. And now I think it's time for what we've all been waiting for, the project presentations from our guests. And we will start with Eva Yayi from Time to Shine ICT in South Sudan. Welcome.
Hello. So my name is Eva Yayi. Yes. So who we are, Gogols ICT is a South Sudanese founded and local NGO. And we were founded in the year 2015. So it's founded by two ladies from the background of computer science. And we mentor girls and women about ICTs. So we use this philosophy of engaging. We engage girls in talks related to ICT, and then we educate them. We teach them how to use digital devices. We teach them how to do programming, and then they get empowered. So when they get empowered, they become confident and very independent, and they're able to express themselves freely in their communities and create different stories. So it's basically about using technology and making it fun for these women and girls in South Sudan. So we have a diverse team. We have mentors who are university students from computer science and IT background. And then we also have professionals who train these mentors, and they are basically from computer science and IT. And they also lecture at the National University of South Sudan, Juba University. So we use a chain-based kind of training. The mentors from university are trained by the IT and computer science professionals, and then they go down to secondary schools and primary schools, and they are able to pass on the knowledge that has been given to them to these girls in the primary schools. So last year we had a project called the TOS ICT Time to Shine project, where we had 24 participants from 2 primary schools and 2 secondary schools who were mentored by 5 selected mentors from a university school. So they were trained in Scratch programming, which uses a graphical user interface, and they were able to tell their stories using Scratch animation. Stories ranged from violence, they ranged from malaria, hygiene, and what happens in their communities back home. So they were able to express themselves through programming and storytelling. So we usually give these trainings in some closed settings sometimes. We have classrooms, and then we have a mentor with 1 laptop for a group of students from each school. So one mentor, and then maybe 5 students per laptop, and they're able to give the trainings on those laptops. But sometimes it becomes challenging because the laptops are not available, and the trainings are sometimes displayed on on monitors and on projectors so that the students can see, because sometimes there are general discussions, general lectures. Sometimes the IT and computer science professionals come in and they do general mentoring with the other mentors and the students. So we display the presentations on the projectors, and then sometimes we have the personal laptops, like I said earlier in the previous slides. So these students are able to tell these stories, to create the stories, and they're able to visualize and see how to tackle the problems in their societies. But the challenges we face are, electricity is a big problem. We don't have a national grid, so most of the time we use solar, but sometimes it's very difficult. At one point we had to take our laptops to a public charging place and it got stolen, and we've never recovered it. So it was a very challenging issue, but we had to go on with the trainings. And other times we don't have space. The space that we book is also used by other students since it's at the university. So as you can see, they sit under trees and they have to share laptops, they have to stand, and it's a bit inconveniencing, but they are eager to learn. They come very early and they try to use alternatives, like the mentors use their smartphones and they're able to present, and they're able to try, and they load Scratch on their phones and they're able to program and write some of their stories on these smartphones and other alternatives. So in the end, these girls are empowered. They are able to express themselves freely, as you can see. They interact with each other. They are from different schools, primary schools, secondary schools, and they're able to share their experiences. They're able to talk about what happens back in their communities, what happens back in their homes. And they are also able to stay in school, because with this project we had competitions, and we were able to select the best projects, and we are paying their tuition for 1 year. So they are very excited, and as you can see, they are eager to be in school. And their head teachers and other teachers see a lot of changes in them. The students actually want to be in school. Initially, they didn't want to attend school. Most of them were thinking of marriage as an alternative, because that way their husbands can take care of them. But now they want to stay in school and they want to be like us. So most schools are actually now asking. They want to join. They want to be part of the project, although because of limited resources, it's a bit difficult to bring in a lot more schools, since what we were working on was more of a pilot project. But we are pushing on and trying our best, so they won't be disappointed. This year, next month, we are starting a new phase of the Time to Shine, and we've actually added more schools. We have up to 50 participants and 10 mentors, so we've expanded to 10 more schools, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eva. And we will jump into our next presentation. So next on stage we have Nayla Fahed, who founded the NGO Lebanese Alternative Learning, and she will talk about her project Tabshura in a Box. Welcome, Nayla from Lebanon.
I have first aid tools in case I forget something. I was very stressed about 20 seconds, 20 slides, so I will try. Go. So I'm Nayla. I come from Lebanon, where we have 2 million refugees for a population of 6 million. So I'm here to present the Tabshura project. Tabshura means Kreide in German. Our project started at hospital. Lama is a 12-year-old girl. She was undergoing treatment. She was demotivated, she had gaps, and she thought about dropping out. And she used our digital platform, Tabshura is a digital platform, to study from her bed while recovering, and now she's back to school. Jawad is 12. He lives in one of the remote area of Lebanon, Bekaa. He often is absent from school to help his father in agriculture, and he wants to be a tech geek. So Jawad uses our platform in home at night to compensate classes he have missed. Asma is 5. She's one of the 408,000 Syrian refugees children in Lebanon. She couldn't enroll in a formal school, so she uses our platform to acquire basic literacy and numeracy and be able to go back to school. So for all those children, schools are not the only answer. They need meaningful learning. They need tailor-made solution adapted to their needs. And digital can definitely be one of those solutions. But as we know, digital, so you added a picture, in fact. No? So as you know, digital can be taught in a very Victorian style way. It's not enough to say digital. We have to change the mindset of the student, the teacher, and the community. This is why we often go to the field. We work closely with the field to better understand the need and the challenges remote area community face. So this is a center with Syrian refugee children. We digitize the school curriculum, the Lebanese school curriculum, but we strongly believe that extracurricular activities are as important as curricular activity. We think this, in introducing culture, this is where we stop extremism. And so we also develop extracurricular activities about arts and many things. How do we do that? We have a pedagogical team with the cat. He's part of our team. So we have a pedagogical team, and we use this technique, we say linking generation. So we have young developers, and we link them with subject matter experts. The young developers, they have the know-how on a topic, they have the creativity, and the pedagogical senior expert will help them on the pedagogical side. They will help them construct a unit. So as you can see, we had two challenges in pedagogical development. So the first one was adapting to the context. As you could have seen in my last slide, adapting to the context doesn't mean cliché. Adapting to the context doesn't mean a woman has to be veiled because you are in an Arab country, or she can answer questions, she don't only cook. And we also have to adapt to the mindset and introduce step by step our digital. This is our tech, this was our tech team. Our tech team have developed innovative, creative solution to answer no electricity, no internet. So it's called Tabshura in a box. It is based on a Raspberry Pi technology. It's a tiny, it was a tiny server. I will do that. But now you can see how we do it. It's a workshop also. So live workshop, do the box. Undo and do the box. So Tabshura in a box is a tiny server based on a Raspberry Pi technology. And all our content is on a micro SD card. So it's very easy change. It's a very low cost solution. A box costs less than $100. And it allows to hotspot 30 devices anywhere, no internet and no electricity because we add a power bank. We put all our digital library on this micro SD card, and when we upgrade it, we change the micro SD card. We do not change the whole system. Currently, we are leading a project with Malala. This is Malala in our offices with the Malala Fund. The project name is Girls Can Count. The idea is to go against the social prejudice that consider girls not able to do in digital and math as boys. And for this, we are using An opposite of what you can think, girls go to school in secondary level more than boys in refugee community. Boys, when they reach teenage, are taken out of school. Girls stays at school until they get married, so longer. And usually they are taught vocational, so they learn how to cook, how to sew, how arts and craft. And lately they introduce coding in lots of centers because it's a trend. And so our idea in Girls Can Count was to use these computer labs in the center and to introduce STEM skills for girls. Empowering girls with STEM skill will widen their opportunity. And this is my last slide, but I will conclude. I didn't finish. So it took us, until now, it took us 4 years to get Tabshura to this level. We had successes, we had failures, and we learned from our failure as from our successes. What do we still want to achieve? What do we to have a greater impact, to scale it up? We want to finalize the content. We want to develop more content. We want to create a system to learn sciences and math in a foreign language. This is how we learn in Lebanon. We learn sciences and math in French, as you might have heard, and in English. So we use a foreign language. We want to scale it to other countries also, because our model is replicable. How to do that? We strongly believe into collaboration. Tabshura is a personal initiative of like-minded pedagogical people. And to scale it up, we strongly believe in partnership with sponsor, with not only with funder, of course, but also with other organizations worldwide, other people having ideas, other solutions, volunteers, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Nayla.
After this, we have the workshop on how to do Tabshura in a box.
Excellent. Yeah, and last but very much not least, let's give a warm welcome to Iffat Gill from Pakistan, who will talk as the founder of Code to Change Program Your Future.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming and joining us for this session. Thank you to GIZ and BMZ for inviting me for this panel. I'm the founder of the Code to Change. We are working in 2 regions. We started a long time ago in 2011 in Pakistan, actually, finding ways to connect educated women of Pakistan and finding ways to connect them to the workforce. The challenge that we are addressing specifically was that there are women who are talented and they do want to work, so the social barriers and the cultural barriers, at that point we don't have to worry about them too much in case of these women. All they needed was connection to or access to the labor market, but because everything was being digitalized and they did not have anywhere to go to learn that digital skills to join the labor market. So that's the project that we started in. Okay, is this the second or first slide?
Yeah, it's the second, third.
Third, okay. If we can go to the 2011 slide, and I promise we'll just run through them back, one more. Yeah. Yeah, so as you can see, in 2011, this was when we first set up our Community Technology Center for Women in a small city called Laya, and the target audience was rural areas from around the city. Laya, it's in the smack middle of Pakistan. But despite the fact that it's right in the middle of Punjab province, it still had the same issues like some of our friends from other countries mentioned here, from African countries. There was a power problem, so for 18 hours straight we would have no power. There was transportation issues because these women had to travel a long time to come to that center. So we did manage to set up that center, but there were just so many problems that then stopped it from running. So then we experimented a bit with what we see in the next image through online mentoring to see if we could use, because it was really hard to find female trainers, and that's one of the challenges. We needed female trainers for these women because of the cultural barriers. So we managed to find a way to connect them to online mentors who could teach these girls who were really interested to join the workforce. And then we came to the conclusion that both of these models, it has to be some form of blended thing. So we developed the Code to Change program in Amsterdam originally, where we were actually raising awareness about the project that we were doing in Pakistan. And what happened was that women in Amsterdam, the women in tech, they really wanted to teach others, these are our mentors of course, on how to become part of the digital workforce. And at the same time, there was a demographic in the Netherlands that wanted to actually access to digital opportunities in the labor market and wanted to learn the same skills. So originally we started the Code to Change in Amsterdam. As soon as we started our application process, all of a sudden we got applications from all over the world, and we were really surprised to see how much the demand of this program is, because we're talking about women who are at a stage where they either for some reason dropped out of workforce for some time, or they are stuck in traditional roles and they want to upgrade their skills, because right now the job market demands that you have specific skills if you want to stay relevant to the job market. So we tried to work with IT industry, of course, because that's a key stakeholder, because that's where the bulk of the jobs are. So what IT industry was really collaborative with us. So here you can see our mentor from our partner company mentoring, or this is a photo from our digital skills bootcamp, teaching one of the women who are trying to get back into the workforce. This is a very integral part of our digital skills bootcamp training, because if you're on the computer all the time, you need this. I mean, if I had more time, I would have asked you all to stand up and do this with me, really zen. So now we're taking this solution, this collaborative solution that we have of going through an actual digital skills bootcamp and a digital skills conference, which is followed by a 3-month online mentoring program where we connect women in a remote region in northern Pakistan and connect them with mentors from Europe, well, mostly with our IT Women in Tech network in Netherlands. And what we see in Pakistan as we've started to work there is more and more people, because the challenges are a bit different than the European context. A lot of the women in Pakistan are not necessarily allowed to go and do work outside of the house. But luckily now technology has allowed us, given us the opportunity that you can work from home if you know the way, to how to go about it. So what we see in Pakistan, in our work in Pakistan, women are really interested in working as freelancers, for example. There are many opportunities online, and most of all, they want to start their own businesses. So what they're doing, or what we're hoping to do through our digital skills bootcamp is give them the right skills to build their own technological solutions so that they can start their own businesses. That's what the focus is in Pakistan. And this is something that came from the women themselves. We did not bring this solution to them. This is what came out of the conversations that we had with those women. They all want to, not all, majority of them want to start their own business. Majority of them want to be financially independent, and that is something where technology can play a big role, and programs like Code to Change, they can play a big role. So I don't know if my time is up. Okay, great. We are still trying to figure out the specifics. One of the challenges is that, like Nayla mentioned, and our other panelists also mentioned, there is this challenge that women are more comfortable in this specific region to go and learn at places or we call them safe spaces, where they have, where their families would be comfortable sending them to. So it has to be, unfortunately, a female-only space with female instructors, and that's where they feel more comfortable learning. And this is also something we saw in our project in Amsterdam as well. This is an image actually to show you the range of age groups that apply, the women who apply to our program, because really there's no, we believe throughout, and we've demonstrated it through our program, there's no age limit to start a new career or to start learning a new skill. And these are an idea, just to give you an idea about where we kind of got the interest from to start. So this is the demand. And I think, yeah, there's a lot of work to be done in this field, you know. Can we move on to the next slide? And then what we also need to do, and I would like to conclude with this, the solution is that we empower the local leaders so that they own the solutions that they're building. They own this, and they need to be part of discussions like this, of course. This is the last image was a demonstration of how, because we go and speak to international audiences, this is one of our female leaders from Pakistan that we are working with, and she's actually invited to speak at the World Summit on Information Society in Geneva. This was 2 years ago. So this is also something that we think that is really important step, that we also not only empower these leaders, but we also highlight them and multiply the impact. I look forward to your questions during the panel discussion. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Iffat. So now we are slowly entering into the discussion. So I would first of all ask our three panelists up on stage, Iffat, Nayla, and now we also have Yine Yenki, who will represent Time to Shine ICT from South Sudan on stage. And yeah, whoever has a question, please hand them around in your post-its. Yeah, and I think in the meantime, we'll just start with our discussion. I think I speak for all of us in the room when I say the three of you, you're a great inspiration to all of us, and it's really great what you have achieved so far. Yeah, and so let's start a little bit talking about the term of digital skills in general, because I think this is a very broad term. So digital skill can mean being on the internet, being online in general, but it can also go up to coding yourself. So if you, based on your experience, what are the most important digital skills girls and women need to learn in order to better their situation? And we have another microphone here, so who wants to start?
I think in our experience and during the course of our work, I think you should just go straight to the stakeholders that are really important in this case. We just went straight to the IT industry where the jobs are actually and started the discussion there. Okay, what are the relevant skills? And you have to keep in mind that every region is different, even every city is different. So there could be different demands in that cities. So you have to go actually and do that stakeholder analysis and skill assessment to see what are the most relevant skills in that region that people can make use of and learn in order to actually be relevant for their specific job market. So I think that's most important, I would say.
You want to say something about it?
In our project, we use only open sources to keep it low cost. So we mainly use Moodle platform, and now we have integrated plugins from a wonderful Norwegian team at Tromsø at the end of Norway. They are called H5P. It's an open source. Somebody do digital, I advise you to check them. And it's very, very user-friendly, so we really need basic computers, very basic computer skill to start, and we can give this basic computer skills. But as we discovered, while starting using digital, the women get very quickly, the girls get very quickly skilled in using digital, and they discover more and more functionalities.
Thank you. From our experience or from our perspective, when I look at South Sudan, we have poor infrastructure, poor development. So when I look at digital skills, it it cuts from being online to offline. It cuts from being from networking to telecommunications to programming. So from our side and from our perspective, all the skills are necessary. Thank you.
Okay, great. And I think all of you already talked a lot about the challenges that you overcome, and we are talking like one of the frames or terms in our title of the session is fragile context. And I think we are talking here about circumstances that many of us have never experienced and cannot even imagine. So maybe to condense that once more. So what should specifically be taken into consideration when implementing digital skills trainings for girls in these kind of fragile contexts that you experience in your countries?
I think when we started our work in Pakistan, I belonged to that community, and I had already worked in the local communities and in the local cultural context. And the first thing we did when we restarted the Code to Change project in Pakistan is that we went and spoke to all the women-led initiatives that were already going on. And I think this is also very important that you talk and include in the discussion that there are already wonderful initiatives going on the ground in many, many countries now, even including countries like Pakistan. And I think it's important that that's where we go and start, because the local people, they know the problems, they know the issues. Most likely, they also have the solutions. They just don't have the right resources or the right mentoring and guidelines to reach that goal that they need to reach to. So I think that's really important to include the local leaders in the conversation.
What's that?
I would say it's mainly three kinds of resistance. The resistance of the community when we speak about girls, internet is the devil. They can meet boy going through internet, and the offline solutions solve part of this problem. The second resistance in the refugee area is the administration and the teachers, because they are often considered as guinea pig. Every NGO, everybody who have an idea want to try it in a vulnerable community, and I think they are fed up with experiences. And teachers, they are stressed, they don't want no more skills to develop, they just want help. Help us, do not give us more tasks to do. And this is the three kinds of resistance we face.
So maybe a brief background before we kicked off with our TOS ICT project, Time to Shine. We used to have open days where we almost showcase all skills, from repairing to development to how to use applications and telecommunications, and would invite teachers and policymakers and students so that they would see and understand. So when we kicked off with TOS project, at least we had a background to start from. At least the teachers had an idea of what we were doing, because we also realized, just like the way she said, most teachers were telling us that so many organizations come, so many organizations promise them skills, and nothing is being done. And maybe another resistance that we also got at the end was the parents. Actually, we realized most parents were stopping the participants from coming. Well, we had a meeting with the teachers and with the mentors to demonstrate the skills they had learned so that they would know what their students are actually going to learn. But we realized at some point the communication between the parents and the teachers was very poor. So that one also somehow hindered our progress. Thank you.
I think you just mentioned this very important point here that your skill trainings, they tackle the individual person, but you're also helping entire communities with what you do, and you are trying to help them to ameliorate their situation. So is there anything that you want to share about that a little bit, or elaborate on that, how you're helping your communities to go forward, and if there are specific things that you take steps to also spread from the individual to the entire community?
So maybe I can take on from there. So probably this year what we've resolved is the students who are the winners of the previous competition, what we will do is we want to invite their parents to come and testify to other parents, because initially in our communities, I think what parents expect is, as a girl, you wake up in the morning, you have to do all the chores from morning until the sun goes down. So the next day is the same thing. So even when you're going to school, you have to wake up still early, because that's required of you as a girl, preparing you for marriage. That's what they have in their mind. So we are looking at inviting the parents, inviting the teachers, and inviting the participants who have gone through our program to come and actually present to the parents of the new participants so that they can see the impact and they can see the change. The fact that we are able to keep 5 girls in school, we don't take it for granted. And I believe they'll learn from that. Thank you.
I said we link generation in making. We also link communities. In Lebanon, you have also lots of violence toward refugees. Refugees are too many. They take the jobs. We have an economical burden due to the refugees. So, making young people go to the field, understand the situation of a refugee, really see what are the challenges he is facing, is like linking to community and lowering, hoping to lower violence. We have a lot of violence between Lebanese and Syrian in schools.
I think that's a tricky one, but the goal of our project is basically to empower women economically, and that is through bridging that skills gap so they can access the existing opportunities in the tech world and to become part of the digital economy. I've been personally working in women empowerment sector for almost over 15 years. And what I have come to conclusion as an activist, I think, is yes, there are other factors as well. There are social factors that we need to take care of. There are political factors and everything. But we decided to only focus on economic empowerment because what we noticed over the course of our work, once the woman is economically independent, a lot of the other issues, they kind of take care of themselves. I'm not saying there are not going to be challenges that they still need to take into account. Professional women in countries like Pakistan, for example, there are so many other layers in the societal fabric that they need to take care of. They need to be more productive also, not just at work, but also at home, taking care of the in-laws, taking care of the children. They cannot neglect those duties. So they have to build their own business or career on top of all that. So, but still, there are many, many examples where women are actually doing that and succeeding. I mean, we're hoping our next boot camp, digital skills boot camp, is in June in Pakistan. So we're hoping to feature many of those success stories and role models that we have in the society to empower these women who are now, you know, reaching out to us to join the workforce. So yeah, we're hopeful.
Great. I think we have a first question from the audience. Yeah. So, I think Yine already touched a little bit on it. So, do parents and families support the women and girls to attend your projects? What are your experiences on that?
Is that for me or for anybody?
I think any of them.
In our case, yes and no. Sometimes, yes, women are already motivated. So the women we are working with are women who've already been married, a lot of them, not all of them, of course. So now they have to convince not the parents who are actually just waiting for them to get married, but the husbands now, and possibly, you know, how am I going to balance this with taking care of the children? It does take some work, but yes, we got, for the program that we are doing, we had 50 seats, and the fact that we got over 100 applications for it from this specific region to us was very promising.
Okay.
I would also say yes and no. But we noticed that education is very valued in our region. It's something very, very valued. So yes, they support education for girls, but it should be it should be related to an idea they have from educating girls. So education, yes, but in a traditional way. Do not introduce things we don't understand.
In our case, it's also yes and no. But one real life example I can give is one of the students, one of the girls, we didn't know she was going through a personal problem. She was an orphan, which we didn't know. She was being taken care of by someone, and I think because of the conflict, the person left. And this girl has always been attending the program. So at some point, she just reached, when she looked at us, she broke down and she started crying. So we were like, oh, today Priscilla is so worried, what's happening? So through our interaction with her and asking her questions, we realized this girl was going through a lot. She was actually lacking her basic needs. And she said the reason why she came today was actually one of the neighbors. It was a neighbor who told her, you go, maybe the lady or the ladies in this program might help you. And we went further to the school to find out how she was. And the teachers told us much less the same experience. This girl struggles with so many things. Even school fees, she struggles. Sometimes she doesn't even attend class because she lacks always. And we're like, okay, we didn't know that. So we realized at some point it was more or less like creating a one-on-one interaction rather than being more of tech, but they also got a chance to share their experiences, because I think in this mentorship, it reached a point that they have trust in us. We are much less like age mates, or we are much less in the same bracket, so they found it so easier to open to us than to someone they don't know. And also, the girls also finished. We realized when they have any simple problem at home, their parents actually call us and they say, oh, my girl is ABCD, maybe talk to her. So we realized somewhere we're also creating a relationship, and we believe with this relationship, we'll also be able to model these girls into responsible women. Thank you.
Okay. So I think one of the things that we might here also sometimes forget is what can be very sensitive is the content, and I think we talked about it also in our talk previous to this session. So maybe Nayla, that's a session on, a question for you, because you told me like content is a very sensitive thing, and so can you maybe elaborate a little bit on like whose content is being shared, how do you decide which content to produce, and what impact might have the right or wrong content have in your project?
In our project, we produce our own content from scratch. There are two difficulties in the context. Lots of projects important ready-made content. The problem is of importing content is first, it's not contextualized. And so there are resistance to use it because they do not relate to neither the story, nor the names, nor the nature. And the second resistance, as I was telling you, teachers do not want more work. So what we do is that we take the Lebanese curriculum, we take the books, we take the same title of the chapter, the same title of the section, and then we do our own content. But like this, the teacher only have 2 clicks to do. This is the chapter, this is the section, I will find related content. If they have to do 1 more click, they won't. So it's very important not to give them more work and not to expect, and this is very important to me, not to expect that teacher will become content creator. They are not supposed to. This is not what they studied, this is not their job. A lot of projects rely on teacher creating their own content using digital boards, or, well, this will not happen.
Okay. Do you want something? Yeah, if you want.
I think like Nayla, we also build our own curriculum for the Digital Skills Bootcamp, but at the same time, I have to say, there is a sea of content, learning content available online. Some of it is really good quality. The challenges the women that we are working with were facing, and which became the basis of launching the Code to Change, was because of the question, where do I start? So they kind of have an idea, okay, I am a writer, I want to become a content writer, for example, or I'm interested in analytics, I want to move towards becoming a data scientist. But then they don't know, because they've never done it before, they're just coming back into the world of, okay, now what do I do? So we help them answer the question, where do I start? So we help them navigate through that, and then of course, we engage mentors who are actually specialized in that region, and they come and guide the participants during the boot camp. What is the best way to move in that direction if you want to have a career in that?
Okay. Yeah, and so I think another issue that you already mentioned in your talks is the matter of safety and security. And what we already heard of you, how you create the safe spaces for the women for your trainings in the offline world, but and for instance also by having female instructors, etc. But security does also reach into the online world, right? And so the question would be, in how far do you already integrate like aspects of digital safety, for instance in terms of privacy rights, protection of your own information, etc. in your programs?
So actually we have a dedicated workshop during our bootcamp and conference on the topic of digital security, safety and privacy online, which is even more relevant for the audience that we are working in with Pakistan, because when a woman in general is stating a strong opinion online, no matter where in the world she's from, there are a lot of times that we see a lot of backlash. And it's even more dangerous in these contexts, in a place like the region that we are working in northern Pakistan, because it can actually have real implications which are harmful. The person's life, for example, can be at risk. So this is something that we are taking into account within our trainings as well, and we're involving the right trainers to address that as well.
Yine, you told that you are also often have first users in your program, so people who have not been online yet before ever. So how do you deal with that? How do you prepare them for the online world?
So through the TOS project, we've integrated a media literacy program, which runs till the end of the year in partnership with the Rock Agency, a project supported by the Civic. So what we do is we create much less like discussions or debates, and one of the first things we did was to find out how do these girls get online. And it was strange that every girl who was in secondary school actually had a mobile phone, and they are online. And yet we know data is very expensive in South Sudan, and phones too are very expensive. The economy is very terrible. So how do these girls actually get these phones? That was another interesting question. And it was, I can't say it was very unfortunate, but it was very fortunate that we found out some of these girls go into relationships to actually get these funds, and also to get men who can sustain them so that they can always be able to be online and keep trends. And also with cases of incitement of violence in South Sudan, which is very well known using social media, and the fact that these girls are online, we realize also some questions which we're asking ourselves is, what kind of information now do these girls consume online? Because when you go online, there's a lot of hate information, there's a lot of insults, sometimes abuses. Well, there's sometimes good information, but how do they filter out the good and the bad? So in our project, we make sure, or we are teaching them how to identify what they can consume and leave out what they cannot. And also, I think it will also expand to how we can empower them to be economically depend on themselves rather than to opt for men to sustain them. Because we've seen cases of early marriage, school dropout, which is very high in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we have another question from the audience. Have you faced the challenge of child or young marriage, and how do you use technology to create awareness for that? Does any one of you answer that?
So maybe through our project, child marriage is very common. You can start, when your parents, for example, fail to sustain you, the next thing is if a man or a suitor picks interest, cows are treasured in our traditions. So if they pick interest in you, the next thing a parent will let you know what? You just get married to so-and-so's son, we get the cows, and we'll take care of you. And it's very common. But through our project, when a girl participates through the mentorship till the end, we pay for them in school, and we also buy for them the scholastic materials. So basically, they learn the technology skill, or they learn the skill, and at the same time, after learning the skill, we also keep them in school. And we've seen a positive response from the parents. Actually, when the term ends, they are the ones who call us and say, so my daughter performed like this, my daughter excelled. So at some point, it's like we are taking the burden off them, and they're feeling a bit relaxed. So the pushing, I think I stop there.
Okay, I think it's also time to open the room for the last couple minutes once again. So are there any more questions to our panelists that you would like to raise? In the back there's a question, so maybe you can just take my mic.
Thanks, that was a great panel and wonderful examples. I was a bit worried though, because you were talking about taking content which already exists online. What kind of licensing is that content? Is it part of OER? Is it open education resources? Or are you pirating it? And well, you didn't talk about it. You just said don't let the teachers create. In other educational environments, teachers are creating content. So if you're taking content from online, what's the licensing regime? What's the implication once you put it back?
We are not taking anything, we are creating from scratch. So we have our own pedagogical team, we create our own content. Teachers in our area, just to explain why it was not aggressive toward teacher, I'm a teacher. Teacher in our area, they have to teach 2 shifts. So they teach Lebanese schools in the morning, then the Lebanese public school becomes schools for Syrian in the afternoon, so they have to ensure a 2nd shift. They are overstressed, they are tired, and as I said before, they are often used for experiences. So every INGO, who have an idea will come and try it. They have money, so the government will sign, and he will oblige the school to use. It's a complicated process. What we take from others is open sources images. We make sure it's open source and we can use it, and sometimes some videos, because we do not have, I don't know, lions in Lebanon to show something about the carnivore.
Yeah, I think regarding the time, we already have to start with our little closing round. So I just have one closing question for all of you in one sentence. So if you had one wish for your project that you could now shout out, what is it?
I think as we are now getting ready to launch our crowdfunding campaign to actually build a physical center or safe space for women in Pakistan, I think we would like all of you to look us up at Code to Change and keep an eye on the campaign.
Nayla.
Continue developing content until we do it all.
Excellent.
Partnership and support. 2 different ways. Thank you.
Perfect. So, yeah, first of all, yeah, let's give a warm applause to our 3 panelists and also to Eva, who's sitting here for the project. So let's start with that. And and now I hand over to Katrin once again, who wants to wrap up and give some closing words. And then, but before you leave, we will take a selfie with all of us, so please stay in the room after that. Okay, you.
Thanks, Laura. And thank you very much, Iffat, Nayla, and Yine, and also Eva here in the front for breaking the bubble and widening our horizon while looking at Pakistan, Lebanon, South Sudan. I think this is really something that we need here. Well, being online means more than just sharing and liking and tagging. In many of our partner countries, it is actually about finding like-minded people for political issues. It is about having access to educational resources or how we can sell our homemade artwork via an online platform. Still, I want to remind you all, there are still 250 million fewer women online than men. Especially in low-income countries, women remain overwhelmingly offline. In low-income countries, and this is a figure I was very surprised to hear myself, it's 94% of the female population is offline. And only 41% have an access to a mobile phone. So I also want to stress what Nayla said, and I found it an extremely important point. She said, we are fed up of being guinea pigs in fragile context. Give the power to the local people to actually develop local solutions. So thanks for pointing out that. And let me just really quickly refer to one thing we haven't talked about. It's the eSkills for Girls initiative. The hashtag is there. That is an initiative that my friends and colleagues, Johanna here, Birgit, Roland, Norman, set up. And it was that we wanted to urge the heads of states, of the governments of the G20 countries, to actually to agree to take action to close the gender digital divide. So if you have time, look it up. What Yine said is also extremely important. She was pointing out at the first users. And in Eva's presentation, she had the candle there. That's the lack of electricity. We have to also focus on these kind of things. And so it's the basic obstacles. Lack of electricity, lack of affordable internet connection, lack of access to formal education and learning materials, for instance. In South Sudan, there are only 22.1% mobile cellulars, the subscriptions per 100 inhabitants. So let me end by saying that we need to empower local female leaders, and let me thank you from my heart for being role models to all of us. And I think we need to have more women like you and shine the spotlight on initiatives that you promote. And we want to portray women like you to even have like a bigger outreach here. So please feel free to recommend to us to come to our stand at BMZ stand out there and recommend to us role model women that we should portray to have a bigger outreach here. Thank you so much for being with us. Big applause. Thank you.